It is not my fault that women cannot control themselves in my presence. It's just part of being a teen.
Welcome. We have to start over again. Welcome back to Hoops HD, everybody. We got up to a crazy little start here. This is our season premiere of our bracket rundown shows. Happy 2026. First of all, I'm your host, Chad Sherwood. We got David Griggs and John Titel up here with me. Joby Fortson down below, along with John Salika, and joining us again from Bracketeer.org and X and Blue Sky and every arena in the country, Rocco Miller. but This is our bracket rundown show, and what we are going to be doing today is actually, by the end of the show, or a little bit after the show is over, we're going to create an NCAA tournament bracket based
Yeah.
on the input of the six of us, or maybe seven if someone else joins.
Yes. And it's right down there. And if you looked at it, you just ruined the entire show because but it is down there. You can see it, but you shouldn't look down there until you've watched it. And what we're doing here is similar to what the committee does. The committee spends all season and really all week selecting teams, seeding teams. Instead of spending a week, we're going to spend an hour. And you're like, well, my God, how can you guys get this done in the hour and not take the whole week? Well, the answer is we're just that much better than the committee.
Uh, I guess we are.
Yeah.
But yeah, what we're going to do during this show here is both select and create a master 1 through 68 seed list that you'll have done by the end of the show. We'll do after the show is actually create the bracket itself, which Griggs mentioned is down below. You ruined it if you go and look at. But I'm going to go ahead and pull
Yeah.
up the screen share here to show you the screen we're going to be using for tonight. It has 68 entries on it. What we're going to do is go through. I'm going to call each one of our panelists to give me their next four teams up in a row. We'll go that way. We'll kind of go one seed line at a time. We'll debate them. We'll see if we can come to a consensus. If we can't, there needs to be a tiebreaker vote. I'm going to cast that tiebreaker vote. We're going to go all the way down till we get through the end of the at-larges. You'll see a little count here that shows how many at-large bids remain. When that hits zero, and when we've all agreed on the teams, that's where we'll end. I'm going to go ahead and fill in the auto bid winners, which are probably most of the 12 line and down through the end of the 16 line, based on a list that I put together that is heavily influenced by Joby's J&G ratings, actually. Does that explain everything?
I believe it does.
Well, why don't we get right into it then? And Mr. Titel, I'm going to start with you tonight, and I want you to tell me who the top four teams in the nation are, and at least for the top four seed lines here, I note that order is very important because that does affect which bracket you're in, which pod you go to, and that type of thing.
Sure, Chad. I think that the top two have kind of separated themselves from the pack in Michigan and Arizona. I can make arguments for both as the one overall, but I think that Michigan deserves it. As you see, they're number one in many of the metrics. And frankly, they've been killing teams by 20 plus points all season long, many of them good teams. So I think that I'm happy to hear vetoes, but I think that they deserve it. As far as the other two, there's a couple other undefeated teams left at this point. I think Miami, Ohio is a little far down off the radar, so I don't think I'm ready to put them here as a one seed, maybe a two. And Nebraska and Vandy, while certainly in the mix, because by virtue of being undefeated, I think are just a little below. So Iowa State is another undefeated. I would have them as the 3 seed. And then as far as the 4, I think that I would go with UConn. I would certainly listen to Duke and some other great teams out there, but by virtue of the fact that UConn's beaten a bunch of great teams who we're going to hear shortly, BYU, Illinois, Florida, Texas, at Kansas, et cetera, et cetera. And the factor for me is that their loss to Arizona while at home was missing 2 key players, Braylon Mullins and Terrace Reed Jr. When healthy, they're as good as anybody. When injured, they almost beat Arizona.
Just a quick note here. We see
I,
various metrics populating. That's the main NCAA net metric. Also, the WOB rating that came out last year. We'll have those on the screen all season. Strength of schedule, KenPom rating, and Joby, your J&G rating is up here. The number one computer, maybe the number one bracket guesser in the world, at least tied for it last season. So we're going to make sure we get those numbers up here as well.
yeah.
But
And
Griggs, you had a comment first. Let me
well,
go to
yeah,
you.
yeah, I'm just not sold on Michigan. I mean, I don't know. We don't know really much about
Okay,
this.
let's
Uh,
go to a real
okay.
comment here.
A real comment. What Michigan is doing, I actually think on paper, if you want to put them in Arizona next to each other, going strictly off the profile, I think Arizona's is a little bit better. But if you ask me who I think the better team is and who I would have number one overall, and this is coming from me that looks at merit pretty much exclusively, what Michigan is doing is historic. And I don't know, there's people on the panel, Tytel and Stalika in particular, that probably know the history of what UCLA did in the 60s and 70s. Other than the UNLV teams from the late 80s, early 90s, I don't think we've ever seen this before for this extended period of time. Since Thanksgiving, they've won all but one of their games by 28 points or more. The one that they didn't win by 28 points, they won by a mere 18 at Maryland. And it's not like they're playing home bye games. They're playing really good teams and just disemboweling them.
No.
Yeah. Rocco, let me get your comments on this as well. I don't really agree with Greg because when you look at just the resume, I think you have to look at those scores, and those margins of victory are insane, are they not, for Michigan?
Yeah, well, it depends. I mean, are you talking about the Wake Forest overtime game, the
Uh,
TCU game that they should have lost, or are you talking about everything after that?
Everything after that. Everything after that. Yes.
Yeah, okay. But it is part of their story, so I think that's important to remind the audience. I also think it's important to remind the audience that we're only 14 to 15 games into a 31 plus game schedule, and so I think it's part of our duty tonight to also project forward as well as look at what's in the kitty so far. So I just want to disclaimer that because my seed order won't be this way later in the season when we have a lot more data. But I think it's
Oh, yeah.
important to project forward as we do the exercise. And I think with that being said, like there's definitely an obvious argument for Michigan to be number one, but I think Arizona has the best win in the country at UConn. There is not even anything close to that for a road win so far. There will be probably in a couple of weeks, if not by next week, but to date, that is the best win in the country. And Arizona's had a bunch of blockbuster games, and they've passed every test regardless of the final score. And so, for me personally, I'm taking Arizona number one.
I would note here, you want to look ahead also. Michigan has a very backloaded schedule. They're probably their five
I was going to
toughest
mention
games
that.
come in the
Right.
last 6 games of the season.
Hmm.
Mike Cha joining us, by the way. Mike, great to have you
Yeah,
on.
they got a very tough schedule, and then don't forget Nebraska too. Nebraska's not a pushover.
No.
Uh,
Not yet. It's
let me
early.
get let me get one more thought here. Slika, Iowa State and UConn to complete the other two teams that Titel put on that one line. Do you agree with that? And do you agree with that order?
I agree with the order. I just don't agree with that Titel listing Texas as a marquee win for the Huskies. It's a nice name win, but as
Mm.
seeing as how Texas has already lost at home to Mississippi State, I don't expect to hear the Longhorns mentioned much more tonight.
Does anybody like? I actually had Duke at 4 and UConn at 5. But I went back and I mean it was very close, and Tytel made a really good point about UConn's only loss with them not being at full strength. But did anybody else like Duke up here? I loved the win at Michigan State. I just love that win.
Duke's a great team. They are but they're a 2 seed right now, given the breakdown. And this is the ACC guy talking. I actually have Vanderbilt ahead of Duke.
Oh
Right now.
wow.
Yeah.
I'm
So,
not
but that's
nearly
Yeah,
that
I
bad
would
on.
too. I would
Duke
too.
is certainly a 2 seed, and we'll see him on the next line. But I think this group of 4 is a solid group of 4.
Yeah, I agree with Joby. I think those wins that UConn has gives them the edge over Vandy, but Vandy has a case for being flawless, and they've been very impressed. They just haven't played the big games yet. But Vandy could easily overtake UConn if they knock out a couple of the SEC's best coming up this month.
I'll throw this out there. We haven't pulled up Iowa State's profile or not. There's a bit of an
That
argument that UConn could be over Iowa State right now too, though, because Iowa State, yes, they won at Purdue, which
Yeah.
may rival that Arizona win at UConn for the best win in the nation. But there's not a lot else there, and while UConn has 4 or 5 uh, real big pieces in their win column already.
Well, they
Illinois,
won in
Kansas,
Kansas.
Florida.
That's a big thing. That's
Right.
tough to win in Kansas.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Illinois was on a neutral court. BYU was semi-home, but yeah.
I would support it, Chad, a UConn over Iowa State. I would support that. Not that it's a done
I,
deal and it's easy, but I would support it.
I think that you and I are the only ones I heard any love for that for, though. So I don't know. I don't know that we're gonna. But I heard enough love to make that move, Joby. But I think it is an interesting debate right now. You know, Iowa State, they're an incredible team. They haven't lost yet, and they're going to have the chances ahead with this Big 12 conference. So,
Yeah, I think I have to stick Iowa State just because if you're undefeated and you at least have one example where you've won a big time game, like to me, it's hard to put a one loss team above that. If Vandy had what Iowa State had, it would be easy for me to put them as the fourth one, but they just don't have that elite win yet.
Hey, Rocco, shouldn't we be talking Miami of Ohio after their Akron win today?
all right, under consideration, Miami,
Maybe.
Ohio.
Yeah.
No, in all seriousness, though, Griggs, let's go to the two line here. I think Titel's one line is staying as is, and I'll let you take the next four teams.
Okay, the top of the two line, and I've been convinced that UConn does belong above them. I had Duke, and I realized that these are going to be picked apart a little bit. I had Purdue behind them at 6, and I did this as if the season were ending today, and I'm not forecasting anything. I think that the profile is really strong. I had Nebraska all the way up here. We could argue whether or not they really are this good, and I don't think they are, but I think right now their profile is. And then it got a little hard for me. I ended up with Gonzaga as my last number 2 seed, but I am very much open to debate as to who might be ahead of them. I just think that the top of the profile is really strong.
Well, Titel, let me start with you on this question. Is there a glaring omission on this line? Because I think there is.
I don't know about glaring, Chad. I mean, there is an undefeated team out there in Vandy that I think should be under consideration at a minimum, but I think this is a solid line. I think that the Big 12 schools are still more 3-seedish than 2-seedish at this point, but other than that, I like this group.
I actually had Vandy a little bit lower just simply because of where their profile tops out. I think that the one thing that everybody else has are wins that are better than Vanderbilt right now. And Gonzaga, lost to their one loss was to Michigan, who's the number 1 overall. Nebraska, no losses at all. Purdue also lost to somebody up on the 1 line. And, Duke lost to Texas Tech. My thing about if you want to pull them up, I might be missing something. But from what I remembered is that while Vandy is undefeated, the teams that I have ahead of them, the games they lost were to teams that are way better than anyone Vandy's played. Like, other than St. Mary's, is anyone really even solidly in the field, much less in the protected
Yes.
UCF,
Are
SMU.
solidly in the field.
Yes.
3 of them are wearing white, I would even argue.
Okay, but do you think they're protected seeds? Like, everybody ahead of them has lost to a protected seed, a high protected seed.
No.
Yeah. And the win at Wake was pretty good. I like
Yeah, by
Vandy. I don't want
30.
to sound like a yeah. But
I
if
mean,
you want to know
that's
why, I'm merely explaining what my thought process was as to why I didn't have them up here.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about Vanderbilt that I think is, and today, yeah, we just have to be honest. I know we're all traditional bracket guys, but we have to evolve with the current committee if we want to be
Yeah.
accurate. And if you just pull up the numbers, like in Ken Palm right now, Vanderbilt performance by performance is over a 30, which historically is one of the better college basketball teams. Typically a top 5 team for a season right now. They are number 5 in Ken Palm, and they are just murdering people. They're playing at a more frenetic pace and scoring rate than Gonzaga. And again, you just don't know because they haven't had to play Michigan yet, or whoever you think the best SEC teams are besides Vandy. But I think at this point, like the performances have to matter, and they do have some road wins.
And
Yeah.
Rocco, your excellent point. And on Wednesday, we will definitely know one way or another because they play a protected seed on Wednesday.
Yeah, and they got them at home. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's got to be a win
At
if they're
home.
at this level.
At home,
Yeah.
but let's see
Yeah.
how it goes. That's real.
And it's
that's real.
January. Yes, it's January 4th. Not even half of the data is in yet. This is more of an exercise than it is a forecast. Yeah, I mean, it very well could be that a week from tonight, I'm like, oh man, Vandy, all the way up on the 1 or the 2. But tonight, I'm not.
I'll tell you, let's go. Salika, what's your thought? Should Vandy be replacing one of these teams on the 2 line?
I would probably have him replacing Gonzaga right now. I mean, it's unfair to punish Gonzaga for losing by 40 against Michigan, but that alone might justify them getting leapfrogged by Vandy. Let's not forget, Central Florida, for example, they just beat Kansas at home yesterday. Vandy beat the Knights by 12 points down in Orlando, if you
Yeah.
want to do a little bit of a comparison's sake.
They also went to overtime against Seattle in the kennel. I mean, that's pretty
Should've-
dangerous right there.
And they were down by double digits for a good chunk of that game, too, until the Red
Yeah.
Hawks melted.
Easily could have been a home loss, but it wasn't.
Yeah, Mike, would you agree with that move then? Should we swap Gonzaga down and move Gonzaga off this line and put Vandy in here as the last of the two seeds?
I agree with Vandy as a 2 seed, but I'd rather slide Nebraska down. I believe in, playing tough opponents in the non-conference portion, and Gonzaga has done that, whereas Nebraska has not.
And that's fair. I just thought that win at Illinois was sensation. Like their schedule holistically was weak, but the top of that profile is really good. Neutral against Oklahoma, on the road at Illinois. If you want to know what made me put them here, it's that. That is just a great win. It's not as good as winning at Connecticut. It's not the best win. It's not as good as winning at Purdue, but it's better, I think, than what anyone's done that I had behind them.
And
No,
Greg,
just
I
because
concur because we're down on Nebraska's out of conference schedule because the teams when they played them were not good, but all of a sudden Creighton's looking a lot better. Kansas State's looking better than what they were at the time. Wisconsin's still, NIT level. New Mexico is better than what they were at the time. Yes, I'm actually saying that out loud. And so they actually collected a lot of solid wins combined with against two protected seats. That's a nice resume on my, especially this point in the season.
But Mike's right. They did not play. Compared to everybody else that we've selected, their out of conference schedule is noticeably weaker.
Well, I'll tell you
Or are
what,
you
I've
just
kind
going to
of,
punish them for rushing the floor against Michigan State when they won the other night?
Oh, what was I thinking? Yes.
what the love I've kind of heard here is maybe we put Vanderbilt in and even up at number 7 overall. Leave Nebraska here at number 8 overall and knock Gonzaga out for now. I'm not hearing anybody yelling and screaming about that as the move, so I think that's where we're at. And I think, Stalik, I'm going to go to you for the next 4 teams up with Gonzaga under consideration.
Chad, you are not allowed to edit me.
But you can buzz them. But I would
Yes.
definitely go ahead and put Gonzaga as the top number 3 right here. I think BYU I would probably have as my next team up. This is another team that's starting to look solid going into Big 12 play. After that, I would go ahead and put Michigan State in. And I'll admit, I thought I was going to have North Carolina as my final 3, but given how badly they stumbled against SMU on the road, I would probably have them down as number 4, and I'd probably put Alabama in their place as my final number 3.
Rocco, what do you think of that? Gonzaga, BYU, Michigan State,
No love for
Alabama.
Houston.
And Mike mentions Houston. I'll throw them under consideration.
I don't like what Houston did
Yeah.
against Cincinnati yesterday. They played with their
Wow.
food for far too long.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little more impressed right now with Houston over Michigan State directly. Mainly, and some of that is projecting forward. I know they both, Michigan State actually might have the better win if you think Iowa at home or UNC on a neutral. Obviously, Arkansas is a good win. Plenty of good wins for Michigan State, but I just think Houston overall, they both have Arkansas wins, so those kind of wash each other. I think they've played the one tough loss to Tennessee, but the performances for Houston just continue to get better. And I have Houston projected to win the Big 12. And I think if they land there, they're clearly on this line, if not higher. I just think Houston's a better team. So I mean, it's really not our typical resume for resume. You could easily argue that so far Michigan State's slightly better, but it's still pretty close.
Yeah, Tytel, if we look at these predictive metrics, Houston blows them out of the water. So should we be factoring them in, given we have so little data at this point?
I think you should factor in every number, Chad. Otherwise, why are we putting up all these numbers for our great viewers? I think that Houston is going to succeed as the season progresses, which, as a Big 12 guy, makes me nervous, of course. Sparty's for real, obviously. No shame in losing to Duke and at Nebraska. But I think it's a coin flip, and I would have no problem with either of these teams on the 3 line.
I think it's a coin flip. Okay, Mike, what do you think?
I don't have a problem for the most part. Let's
Would you
see.
flip? Would you put Houston in, knock Michigan State out?
Uh, I would say yes, but a weak yes. I mean, I don't have a huge problem with Michigan State being at the 3 line.
You're a Michigan fan. How can you not have a huge problem with Michigan State?
Exactly.
But I
Well,
respect Tom Izzo.
Yeah.
I think that's the move I've heard the most love for here, if I can type Houston incorrectly. But let's go ahead and put Houston there instead of Michigan State for now. Quick look here, Joby. A couple other teams in this line here, BYU and Alabama. Especially this BYU team. They're playing some incredible basketball these days.
I actually called them on the preseason podcast overrated, and that is one of the worst takes of the preseason podcast. They're really good, and I love how they play. That they're just taking care of business in these games. A mini Michigan in a little ways. One loss, UConn, really? Yeah,
They were shorthanded
no one's
for the
going to
game
blame
too.
that. And so
Yeah.
They were shorthanded, lost to UConn by 2.
I love BYU as the 10th team. I think we have seeded them dead correctly. And then Alabama, I think, also should be on this line. I would actually side with the Michigan State crowd, but I'm not. Houston would be my 13th, so it's not like it's a big deal on there.
Let's go ahead and let's roll along here to the 4 line. Rocco, let me turn to you. Give me your next 4 teams up. We do have Michigan State under consideration.
Yes, we do. I'll actually start with Arkansas, and then I'll go Michigan State as my next 2. I'll wrap that up with Illinois and Texas Tech. And I have a pretty clear line from that tier to my next tier, so I feel pretty good about those 4.
I'm starting. I don't mean to worry you guys, Rocco, but like you and I have agreed on virtually everything, and I know that makes you queasy.
Well,
Except for Vanderbilt, we did disagree on Vanderbilt.
We did this. Okay, yeah, you're right on that one. Yeah.
well, let me get a couple of opinions. Talika, what do you think of these 4 teams? Arkansas, Michigan State, who we discussed a little bit already, Illinois, and Texas Tech.
Texas Tech, you could certainly make a case for, given that they had the win against Duke and what was almost a de facto road game at Madison Square Garden. But I also look at teams like Kansas, Louisville, that are also coming up with some recent losses. I probably can't justify putting them ahead of teams like Texas Tech at this point.
Texas Tech. Mike, we also saw Arkansas and Illinois on this line. You agree with those picks?
Hang on, let's see. Arkansas, Michigan State, Illinois, Texas Tech. Yes, I agree. Yes, I do.
Okay.
I think this is the start where you see the separation. The separation's getting a little bigger here.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I thought it was kind of like maybe after the 5 line, just because there were a couple teams I think until this weekend were in that 4 seed range that we have not mentioned, including an ACC team that made a bit of a fall over the weekend. But Joby, why don't I go to you for the 5 line, because it looks like we have our top 4 seed lines on.
It's appropriate you're coming to me, because let's call this the ACC seed line, as it were. North Carolina at the top. Then after that, Kansas, who's played 3 ACC teams, so I guess they can count.
Is Hofstra next?
Yeah,
Yes.
Hofstra's getting the auto bid. Then Louisville. Yes, I know Notre Dame. Yeah. This team's good. And then my drum roll surprise team. No, it is not Virginia.
The Pony Express.
Beat North Carolina this weekend. They're that.
It's the Ponies.
SMU is that good, and their resume is actually pretty darn good too.
I didn't have them this high. I thought I had them higher than most.
This was the this. I know that I'm an anomaly a little bit on this, but I definitely wanted to present them because, they have, obviously North Carolina is the big marquee win. Their losses aren't bad. We're going to be talking about LSU in a few seed lines, I think. Vanderbilt we've already done, but then Butler A&M, not Mississippi State actually, but Butler A&M and Murray State, who I think is playing really well if you saw the game today. These are three really good wins by SMU, showing where they are. And the North Carolina win, that was no accident. Boopie Miller is just he's a stud, man. That guy, double digit assists, 3 pointers. I mean, the guy's like, he's 5'10" or whatever, and he is just outstanding. So the SMU deserves the love here. The win, yes, the North Carolina win, and I know it was at home, so it doesn't count in Riggs's world. But but I actually think it's 10 times more impressive than Mississippi State win on the road. This team's good, and they deserve some love and start consideration of sniffing a protected seat.
I'll just throw this out there. I think that Mississippi State one's going to get better. I saw a lot of life out of Mississippi State that I hadn't seen all season when they beat Texas
They
yesterday.
beat Texas, yeah.
Yeah.
But
I
let
want
me
to
go
throw
to
another.
well,
Okay.
let me go to Titel first, and Briggs, I'll come around to you also.
Okay.
Titel, what do you think of these 4 picks, especially SMU this high?
I have no problem with the first three. SMU is heading in this direction, Joby. I'll give you that. And you have good arguments. I just think that it's a little too early, especially with their tough road schedule ahead. I mean, if they win at Duke at Clemson, like 5 and maybe even 4 or higher, but I don't trust them yet. But I hear you. But this is also getting into the injury part of our show in terms of the Tar Heels lost to Michigan State without Seth Trimble. Darren Peterson was missing for 2 of Kansas's biggest losses, Duke and UConn. Michael Brown Jr. missing for Louisville's losses on the road at Tennessee and at Stanford. So while I think this is all correct for now, I think we could also see each of these teams heading northward because they have losses on their schedule already with valuable guys hurt. And Peterson is incredible. Like, when healthy, he's arguably the number 1 pick in the draft, but he's missed several games. So I like this. To answer your question, Chad, I like the first 3. I think SMU's a little high. I would rather go with a team like Tennessee, who I know has been trending down recently, losing at Arkansas. But one of their losses in Vegas at the Players Era at Syracuse was without JP Estrella. And they've beaten Louisville and they've beaten Houston. So I think beating Rutgers, of course, is the cherry on top for them, but we'll see what you say.
Yeah. Yeah, Chad, there's another team I kind of wanted to look at and compare them to the SMU because I think they're similar and I actually like them a little bit more. And I know everybody's gonna like freak out, but let's look at Villanova.
They were. I'm not freaking out. They were my next few teams up.
Okay,
I agree with. I like this pick. Griggs, go ahead.
I think the win at Seton Hall is really good. I believe that's Seton Hall's only home loss. The win at Butler, really good. 4 wins away from home. One of the losses was to BYU in the season opener, and they were really competitive in that game. The other loss was to a team called Michigan, which they lost badly, but we've already discussed that. And while there's kind of a gap, it's a lot of tier 3 and tier 4 wins at home against teams that are not going to be able to see the bubble with a telescope. I still think they top out really well. And when you put them side by side with SMU, I think these profiles are similar, and I actually like Nova's a little bit better.
Well, because they have 2 road wins at the top there. But Rocco, let me get your thoughts on this debate here of the North Carolina, Kansas, Louisville, SMU, or should it be Tennessee? Should it be Villanova? Should it be somebody else?
Yeah, again, I'm projecting a little bit on some of these, but I do like Iowa better than most of these teams. And I get it. There are 2 big chances they lost both, but I think Iowa's really, really good. And
don't like Iowa.
yeah, they don't have the resume yet, but they're going to be good. And they proved it yesterday with a nice double-digit win over a UCLA team with a lot of talent. They won the tournament out in Palm Springs. It's not their fault. Xavier sucks. So I think, wherever Iowa lands, I think they're good enough to be better than. I actually think they're better than Villanova. Like, if Iowa played Villanova tomorrow, I'm picking Iowa. If Iowa played a couple of these other teams on here, I would pick Iowa. So that's why it's hard right now. But I do have them there. And then I actually have Joby's Virginia team as
I do
well.
too. Yeah.
Really impressive game yesterday, opening up at NC State first thing in the morning out here in the West. Really clubbed Will Wade's bunched on the road. That didn't hurt. And the Virginia Tech game, I mean, that that game was out so insane. Somebody had to win, somebody had to lose. So really not punishing them too much for that
And I
effort.
will say, the Virginia Tech game, in my school's component, that's the bias. But you'll notice Virginia only scored 24 in the first half after 11-day layoff. That I don't think in a normal situation they're that cold. And while Virginia Tech also was cold to begin with, the fact is Virginia, especially on the road, I think they might actually even be able to put that game away in the first half.
Yeah.
In a normal circumstance. So and likewise, they're just not very good shooting in ballrooms, is what we're figuring out.
Yeah, and big picture wise,
was in the Greenbrier,
Virginia has
and,
a lot of
and,
depth and a lot of talent.
Castle Auditorium is not exactly your bright light. It's not Raleigh.
It's dark.
All right, we got to make a decision here. Sleek, let me go to you. Who would you replace SMU with? Is it Tennessee, Villanova, Iowa, Virginia?
I would probably go ahead and I would probably replace him with the other ACC team in Virginia right now because I think that game against Butler starting to look more and more like an aberration, and rivalry games against Tech, you just never know how those are going to turn out.
Uh, Mike, would you agree with that? Should we do a Virginia SMU swap here?
Let's see. I'm checking. If I had to choose between the two teams, I definitely would have Virginia in. I know SMU, they might be good down the road, but if you notice SMU's profile, for the most part, it's very home court heavy. I mean, I know they have the win at Mississippi State, but I'm just saying overall, it seems to be heavily a home court.
Yep. Okay, so I think that's the move we're going to make right now. Joby, I like the attempt on SMU. I think they belong on the next seed line. And Rocco, I loved your comments about Iowa. Honestly, when I did my first list without actually looking at profiles, I think I had Iowa on my 3 line, and then I looked at the profile, and the wins just aren't there yet. And I think the key word there is yet on them. But I think they will be there at the end of the day.
I mean, they led for it. My other point I was going to make on them was just that in the Iowa State game, they played them on the road. That's a 1 seed for us right now, and they led for 28 minutes on a road game. I mean, they're obviously pretty good.
Yeah, and they played really well in that game. I have them nowhere near this area, but then again, I'm seeding off a profile.
Okay, let's Mike. Let me go to you. You're going to give us a 6th line. Go ahead. Next
Okay,
4 teams up. We do have 4 teams under consideration.
Let's see. Tennessee, Iowa, yeah, Iowa, not Iowa State.
I'm going to Iowa State in
Villanova,
twice.
Villanova,
Okay,
and USC.
so you're leaving SMU out still. And going to go USC. It's a team we have not yet discussed. Titel, what do you think? What do you think about that? Tennessee, Iowa, Villanova, who we have discussed, USC above SMU.
No veto, Chad.
No veto. You like that USC pick? Uh, who else? Joby, do you like the USC pick?
I actually like the USC pick. I think USC belongs on this. I need more, Rocco. I know McCollum's doing a great job at Iowa. I need more. I need more meat on that Iowa resume. So I do SMU over Iowa.
Well, Rocco, what about USC? Do they belong in this group here? I don't know that I'm hearing the love there, but you're shaking your head on
Well,
USC.
I'm just shaking my head because I'm watching Washington get killed by Indiana right now, and USC lost at home when they had an 18-point lead to this team.
Why are you letting us? Why are you forcing us to have the Hoosiers in this field? Because they were not in mine, and maybe
Home
this
wins,
game doesn't.
home wins against bad teams shouldn't get you in. So hopefully it doesn't
Right.
change your opinion. But I think, it's a little early for USC for me, and especially with all their injuries. I mean, they're a different team now. They had to go get a guy from Europe just to get an 8-man rotation. They're a different team than some of the wins they had right now. And they were not competitive against. Nobody's competitive against Michigan recently, but I mean they were really outmanned in a game where I think if they played in November, that would have been a really good game.
Yeah.
And
And
Michigan
so
didn't have Yaxa Lendenberg for half the game, and then USC still got
right.
pounded.
Right. So, Chad, I think my order would be Villanova. If you can go back to the board, I think my order would go Villanova. Certainly Iowa first, then Villanova second, and then I do have SMU third, and then I would go Tennessee fourth.
Okay. So the big question there really is SMU versus USC on this line here. Uh, Stalika, you want to give a final call here? USC, SMU, where do we go?
I think as far as USC, their best wins came in Maui against Seton Hall and Boise State. But you pack that up against SMU, the Ponies' best win came at home against North Carolina and also against Butler back when the Bulldogs had a bit more of a pulse. I think I could give a slight edge to SMU given that we are talking about more wins in tier two versus USC having more tier three wins. Not to mention that SMU, all their losses are in tier one, where UW is going to be a tier two loss for the Trojans. So I wouldn't object to SMU over USC.
I think we're going to do the SMU USC swap here. I think that's what I've heard the most love for. Joby, we do get your ponies in there. I have one team we haven't mentioned yet, but I'm sure they're going to come up on the next line, so I'm not going to throw them out there quite yet. Instead, Titel, I'm going to go to you for the 7 line. Give me your next 4 teams up.
Let's get the Trojans in. Let's get some SEC blood on this line. Let's get Florida and Kentucky. And I think we're still a little far away from getting we're close to getting another SEC team in, but not yet. So I would go with St. Mary's narrowly over Utah State.
St. Mary's, as we record this, was down most of the game to Seattle. Looks like they're going to find a way to win that game. So,
Right.
Making a good pick. But you did not mention the team I thought you would have mentioned. Griggs, maybe you'll mention them for me. How about a Big 12 team called UCF?
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yes.
would have had them at the top of the line, actually.
Mhm.
Titel, you're going to have to explain Kentucky to me. Pull them up, Chad, because while you have to look at the whole resume, and it does say Kentucky on the resume, that is a weak case for inclusion at all, much less on this line.
I'd be happy to make the case, Puppet. So this is all based on injuries, frankly, because beating St. John's is good, but not good enough to be all the way up here. But they were missing Jaden Quaintance for most of their losses, Diubate for 2 of them, Lowe for 2 of them. So this is a when healthy, they're this good, but they just haven't been healthy, which is why they lost most of those games.
Well, I mean, now that they're healthy, and if they start winning games, I'll agree with you. But that just seems more like a supposition than it does. They haven't looked that good. Now, granted,
That's why.
Yeah.
Mhm. Well, let me get a couple of opinions here. Joby, who would you take out and who would you put in from this line?
I'm with God. Do I really have to say this out loud? I'm with Griggs. I don't like show me Kentucky. And by the way, unfortunately, their SEC schedule is not going to do it in the next week or so. But I need to see something. And St. John's isn't good enough. And so UCF showed us something against Kansas yesterday. Plain and simple. UCF has only 1 loss, and they proved why. And so I would do a UCF Kentucky swap. I also have little issues. Florida is kind of, weak, but but Kentucky's the bigger issue. But yeah, John might be Titel might be exactly right. We might be talking about Kentucky as a protected seed. If their talent shows. I just want to see it before I reward it. That's all.
Let's take a quick look at that Florida question here, Stalika. Does Florida belong up here, or should we be talking about somebody else? Assuming we're putting UCF in, Florida coming off that loss at Missouri yesterday.
I think there's another team we should be discussing in the SEC, but you're on the wrong side of that conference. I think you have to actually go to the Bayou and look at the LSU Tigers here. This is a team that's already beaten SMU by comparison, but the only weakness for the Tigers here is they don't have the schedule yet, but that will be filled in spades once they get into SEC play. But if you look at what they've done right now, only the loss at Texas A&M is the one that's going to have me holding my nose. Texas Tech is certainly an understandable loss, although they were also blown out in that one.
What about the Boston College game? I mean, I know they won, but that's bad to even have an overtime next to it.
Rocco,
They had that game. They had that game completely lost too. It was a miracle comeback to force overtime.
Rocco, for a split second, I short circuited because I thought you said, "What about Boston College?" And then you finished your sentence by saying the Boston College game. I thought we were going to have to call someone to give you psychiatric assistance for that first.
Griggs, your opponents are more important than you, so I will always focus on your opponents.
Yeah.
All right. Then I think the only move I've heard enough love for to make is the Kentucky UCF swap, which I already did. Yeah.
I have a completely, mostly different list, I should say.
Okay. Yeah. Throw some other teams at me.
Ahead of this entire group, I have both Clemson and Georgia.
Yeah, I like Clemson.
And I'm okay with UCF, but I did have Seton Hall slightly above them as well. And I'm nowhere close on Florida or St. Mary's yet.
Okay, that Seton Hall pick is one that is the team that I thought we've been missing so far. Mike, let me ask you, the Seton Hall cardiac kids here who keep finding ways to look like they're going to lose a game and win it. They did it at Marquette. They did it today against Creighton. What about the Seton Hall team? Should they be up here now with this profile?
Let's see. I have them in the 8-9 range, so shoot.
We are on the 7 line actually as we speak.
Oh, okay. I'd say no to Seton Hall for the 7 line. I mean, I know they have some good points here, but can I see Seton Hall's profile again, please?
Absolutely. And I guess maybe we'll flip them up against Florida because that was the one team that I heard the most, not Florida International, Florida.
I like them too. I like FIU.
Yeah. I didn't select.
I don't know. I'm more in Middle Tennessee right now, but we've gone
Good.
to USA.
Let's go.
Yeah, it comes down to the little things. I know Florida's kind of, I mean, they're a little bit thin on quality wins, but Florida, I like their non-conference strength of schedule, 23, where Seton Hall's in the 220 area. I like Seton Hall more as an 8-9 type rather than a 7.
Okay. So
Florida
then,
should have lost that Florida State game. They really should have. Florida State had them.
But they didn't.
But they didn't. But it shows maybe they aren't as strong as once again, preseason pick to win it all by someone, but I won't say.
are we going to stick with this USC, Florida, UCF, St. Mary's? Because we've got a lot of teams under consideration now. Maybe we just move on to the 8 line. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the 8 line here. 7, 8, 9, 10. Honestly, there's not that much of a difference a lot of the time here. But Griggs, I'm going to go to you. Give me your next 4 teams up. We've got 5 under consideration.
Yeah, and one of my teams isn't even one of the ones under consideration. I do have Clemson here.
Okay.
And I also have Utah State all the way up here.
Not a bad pick.
Yeah, and then it's Georgia and Seton Hall.
No problem there.
Clemson, Utah State, Georgia, Seton Hall, still leaving Kentucky and LSU out.
I have Kentucky pretty far out, Chad. I got to say.
Yeah.
I don't have them near this line.
Tytel, what about those 4 teams? Clemson and Georgia, who we've mentioned but haven't done a lot of discussion on, and Utah State being brought up for the first time.
I'm mostly good with it. As much as I want to put the Johnnies in here, their embarrassment on national TV over the weekend really soured me on them. As much as their butt kicking of Georgetown on New Year's Eve, where I was at, impressed me. But yes, not great. So I think that this is a no veto line for me.
Rocco, let me go back to you. You threw the wrench in the last line here. Did we save it a little bit by putting at least 3 of those 4 teams in?
I think so. And now I think we're into LSU territory for me. In fact, the teams up there, minus Florida, I don't have an issue with. And I obviously think Florida is that good. It's not a big deal when you think about the projection. They just obviously keep falling short. I think if you put all the Florida losses together, it equals less than 15 points. So They're right there. They're going to be fine later. But I do think we might want to consider, and I honestly, this is the one team I haven't looked at their resume because I'm just so heartbroken by the Stanford loss. But it is the St. Louis Billikens because I think they're freaking phenomenal.
Yeah, I have
And
them.
they're very dangerous if they can get into this March Madness tournament.
Only one loss. I mean, you that says a lot, even if
And they had the
best
game
win
won.
is Santa
They had the
Clara.
game won. Yeah.
They did. And I'm with you, Rocco. I like them. I didn't have them. I had them safely inside the bubble, but I didn't have them in the top half of the bracket.
Yeah, and if they're safely above the bubble, then this is where their seed would probably go up to about an 8 or a 9, typically, if
Yeah.
we were at the end of the season. But
Right, yeah, and they do have they don't have like big paydays, but they do have a lot of loose change that could add up to a pretty impressive resume when you're talking about at VCU
they
and
play them
at St.
twice.
Bonaventure.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean a lot of the
Dayton twice.
A10 has some bloated records.
Yeah.
And from that somebody is going to emerge with a good profile, at least potentially.
Yeah,
Right.
there is a glaring number, Titel. I highlighted two glaring numbers in the center there, though, that are
Very bad,
really bad, though. The strength of schedule numbers.
Yes, which frankly is going to get much better. So I'll ask Rocco, like, do you think they're going into VCU and winning this week?
Maybe
I
New
think-
Mexico. New Mexico did it, and I think St. Louis is better than New Mexico. But again, that's hard to do. That New Mexico probably do that 2 out of 10 times, right? St. Louis might be able to do it 3 out of 10. So still percentages are not on their side, but I think that's a loss you should be able to take. And if they handle all their home business, they have 2 games with Dayton as well. I think they have a couple Bonnie. So we'll see. But I think if they're clearly the best team in the A10 and their only non-conference loss was on that foul up by 3 thing, Benny Gaylor rainbow shot from the corner. I mean, and here's the other thing. I've been thinking about this, and hopefully it won't matter later. But there's been so much talk the last 2 years about Indiana State getting left out that if Josh Schertz is in that situation again, and it's another high-performing team, I think they might actually try to figure out a way to make sure he gets in this time.
Oh wow, that is a connection I did not make. Josh Schertz, for those that no, if you're watching this, you know who Josh Schertz is.
Yeah, I would hope so.
And you probably know who Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is too.
All right. So, Mike, you okay with this? Clemson, Utah State, Georgia Seton Hall.
Yes.
You are good with it. All right, Stalika. Why
Yeah.
don't you give
And
me
like
the
you said, 8
line?
and 9, the difference is so small. I mean, it's splitting hairs.
And it's just one of those things. Like it just goes to show you that I'm never wrong.
Stalika, why don't you give me a 9 line? We do have 4 teams under consideration again.
All right, let me make a couple marks here for Georgia Seton Hall. Make sure I don't mark them down twice here. So I would go ahead and get LSU in.
Yes.
I would get St. Louis
Yes,
in there.
good selection. Good job.
Bookends.
Yes,
2 more.
I don't even know why St. John's is up here.
Kentucky's still
I'm
not
not going to.
I do not think they're good.
Go ahead,
I
Stalika.
would
2 more
be-
teams.
I'd probably be cringing a little bit as well, but I would go ahead and. Do I really want to mention Auburn right here?
Yes,
This
you
was
do.
a
Yes,
team
you do.
Yes,
This was a team that really could have used the win against Georgia on the road, and we would have mentioned them already.
Incredible 4-point play, at least.
yeah.
That was amazing.
And here's where I really start cringing.
I support
I'm
Auburn.
going to say Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
Wow.
I've got no problem with those picks. Honestly, they were you
Yeah.
were my next 2 teams we hadn't discussed. But let's get a few more takes. Joby, you did not like that, so let me go to you first.
I love the first 3. I mean, I'm on board, John, but man, Oklahoma State's not my field. I mean, I don't like them. The loss showed me everything I needed to know. They're not they just haven't. They played nobody out of conference, and when they finally were tested, they fell flat. They fell really
too.
flat.
Yeah,
Like,
John, what-
yes, I know Tech's a good team. I mean, but come on, the eye test has to come into
Yeah.
play at some point, and they are not that great a team.
What
They
do you
also
like
have-
about
They're
them, John?
gonna
They also
be in
have
that
0
team,
Tier 1
or
wins,
the
and that's the
Champions
problem.
Cup or whatever we're calling it. Good for
Yeah.
them, because they were picked to finish dead last, right? And so, but and they're not dead last. They're
Yeah.
not an awful team, but they are not an NCAA tournament level team. I honestly
Well,
believe that.
Stalika, it's
And
your
so I
pick.
would go with plethora. Yeah, this is where you start getting. If you want me to pull a Big 12 team, I'd go TCU.
Yeah, I like them a lot. I did want to hear from John what he likes about Oklahoma State. I was really surprised by that.
Yeah, I'll admit I was holding my nose in that Texas Tech was obviously a forgivable loss, even if the point margin wasn't. Again, Oklahoma, while that's a rivalry game they really should have won. It was a neutral court game. I probably gave them a little too much credit for wins against Texas A&M and Northwestern, because at least one of them came on the road. And the South Florida game, Grand Canyon, probably going to have a bit of a pulse. But then again, I probably was willing to give them a little more benefit of the doubt versus teams like Kentucky and St. John's, who really haven't shown me anything at all this season.
Yeah. Comparing
Okay.
them to TCU, they do have an anchor of a loss to New Orleans, but I don't think that's quite as awful as what it looks like now. And, I just kind of it is the win at North Texas is pretty good. Tulsa did not win there today. So while it's a game that a tournament level team should be able to win, it's a noteworthy win. And the neutral floor
Mhm.
win against Florida is good. I actually, who said TCU? Oh, it was
I did.
Joby. Yeah.
I did.
Well, never mind. I don't want to give Joby any credit. I don't like
Okay,
that
That's not
TCU.
an anchor.
Let-
That's not an anchor. That's losing your legs to an alligator
Yeah,
in the
I mean,
bayou.
I mean, I
Let-
get
let-
it.
You can
let-
argue
let-
TC
let's okay. Let's move on here. I do want to get a couple more opinions real quick here. Mike, would you
Yeah, I
go
was going to
with?
say, if you look at TCU and Oklahoma State, it looks like TCU's top 3 wins are better than Oklahoma State's best win. Oklahoma State doesn't have any wins against Quad 1.
Yeah, Rocco. I mean, I think the only argument for Oklahoma State is they haven't done anything bad, and it's kind of like a jury's still out on them type of thing.
Jury's still out. Yes, I agree. But not anything to punch their ticket, even in this pretend ticket.
Uh, so is it TCU over Oklahoma State? Is that the love I'm hearing here? I think it is.
I mean,
Yes.
And we'll put LSU, St. Louis, and Auburn in there. We got Kentucky, Oklahoma State, St. John's under consideration. And Rocco, why don't you give me the next 4 teams up and save us from teams like St. John's and Oklahoma State being under consideration?
oh man. Okay, we're gonna have fun here. I
Kentucky.
I have UCLA listed.
Okay.
However, that could be bad information, so please feel free to pick that apart. And we already put Florida in. I have Baylor next.
Okay.
I have Miami Hurricanes, and then I have the other Miami, Ohio, 15
Yes.
and 0.
Yeah.
I have the exact same thing. I have both Miami's back to back on my C list as well. I love it.
Yes,
I don't even have Miami as my top under the radar team. I've been
but
chan-
they have the best resume. They're undefeated.
I was hoping
They
we could
beat
save
Akron.
Miami and Miami until a play-in game in Dayton.
um I well, okay. I just don't think they've done enough yet. But I like them. I like
well,
them.
Look at that
first-
WAB. The committee loves the WAB. They're number 28 in WAB.
They
Come
are.
on,
Okay,
Grizz.
I did notice that. In that I don't know how they're 28th because my
Because
God,
they're not going backwards. They're just adding pennies and nickels every win.
I guess you're right. And the win
That's how
against
the WAB
Akron,
works.
even though it was at home, I thought Akron was by far. They had a great week. Like the win at Bowling Green was at the time harder than anything that they've done all year. And then the win at Akron, their best wins are probably their last two. I just think that is they have 4 wins against top 250 teams.
2 of them true road wins.
Yeah. I just don't think that's good enough to be inside the bubble. As much as I
But
wish it
Griggs,
were.
what about their non-conference strength of schedule? Isn't that awesome?
It actually
You
is
almost
impressive.
can't
Oh,
do that.
Barriers.
Oh,
Really
okay.
big barriers.
Ooh.
Okay, first
Yeah.
of all, Miami, Ohio is going to be as an auto bid winner, so
They're an
whether
auto
they
bid.
so we don't have to
Yes.
debate them too much, other than the seed line. But let me go to another question. Titel, we just threw out Oklahoma State because they haven't beaten anybody and they have a couple losses. Isn't that what Miami, Florida's profile is as well, though?
Yes.
Isn't it the same profile?
Similar. I mean, beating Georgetown this year is certainly nothing to hang your hat on. Winning at an SEC team, albeit a
Mm,
not top tier SEC team, is so be it. Yes, Chad, I think that's accurate.
okay. Well, so what do you think about Rocco's four teams, though? Would you make a move, especially at the three at larges, UCLA, Baylor, Miami?
Um, I think that you guys are overlooking Kentucky, so I will make my Kentucky case yet again. For example, like if St. Louis is healthy and has Kentucky's schedule, they're in trouble. If Kentucky is healthy and has St. Louis's schedule, they're the best team in the country. It's like, I understand that they haven't done a lot. It's because of injuries. And I promise you the committee takes that into consideration. And when healthy, which is not yet, but soon, and hopefully extended periods to come, Kentucky is better than not in this field at this point.
Well, let me ask, Joby, is that the move? Should we put Kentucky in now and maybe leave either
Yeah,
Miami or UCLA out?
And they do have wins over St. John's and Indiana. I mean, it's not like nothing. I don't think it stacks up against the teams on the 7 line, but I think they are here now. And I'll be straight. Miami right now would be ranked 4th among my remaining ACC teams. That just kind of puts it in perspective. I'm not sold on Miami. We're talking about it is what we were talking about with Oklahoma State. And I didn't like Oklahoma State. I'm going to be consistent. I don't care if they're in the ACC. I don't like Miami right now, but Miami will have opportunities. Oklahoma State will have opportunities. If that bloated record in each case is able to then complete it with wins over North Carolina or whatever comes down the road for Miami, dude, they have a very high ceiling. And so, but I want the ceiling to play out a little bit. Right now, Kentucky, for the reasons John gives, they've actually done more than Oklahoma State's and Miami, the Oklahoma State's and Miami have, and I want to reward that.
Slika, any problem with Baylor and UCLA on this line?
I think UCLA, they were just coming off of a loss to Iowa on the road, and their
Right.
best win was against Washington, which was more than we can say for their friends down the road at USC. But that's the only win they have against the top 2 tiers. So I could see a case potentially for UCLA being down to a playing game right here. But I think Titel also makes a good point in chat. What about the Oklahoma Sooners? This
Yeah.
is a team that now has a road win at Wake by double digits. They have the win against the Cowboys and OKC, and the only loss that's really a disqualifier is going to be the one against Arizona State. Gonzaga and Nebraska are more than forgivable.
Yep.
So we're making a
like
second move on
Oklahoma.
Rocco's line here. Go Oklahoma, so UCLA, Griggs. Is that what you're at?
I would Oklahoma, not Oklahoma State. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, Oklahoma instead of UCLA.
Yeah, I would. Yeah. I think UCLA gets there. I just the way what's interesting is just how everybody does it each week. I don't do any forecasting at all.
Okay.
So yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's try to get the beginning of the 11 lineup here. The next 4 teams, which would be the first 2 teams here. There's going to be a difference because 2 teams will avoid Dayton. The next 2 teams after that will be going to Dayton. But unless you give me an auto bid winner, in which case we'll mess things up a little bit here. But Joby, you're up next for 4 teams.
All right. With 4, do you want 4 or should we spread out?
I want 4. Let's go with 4.
Okay. Well, let's you're going to get ready to pull your hair out. I'm going to have 3 ACC teams, and not one of them is Miami.
I kind of agree with 2 of them. I know.
Yeah.
I know
who one of
Virginia
them
Tech,
is.
Virginia
Yeah.
Tech,
I agree with it.
NC State. The shocker is, there's some bad, but now there's some good. Stanford.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's okay. Give me one more team, and then we're gonna have to
St.
have a
John's.
discussion.
St. John's.
And St. John's. Okay.
Not the Bears, not the Golden Bears.
No, I've
They're
always been a big
close.
believer that wins against the field or wins against close to the field are big deals, and Stanford actually has done it pretty well on that category. They have some bad, but the bad isn't as bad as you think. when you look at Seattle and stuff like
Seattle, UNLV, Notre Dame, three teams that are not going to be on the board, Joby, all at home. I can't do that when you have your only true road win is at San Jose State, and you've been two
the
teams that are in this
neutral over that
field.
St. Louis team we love.
There was a
Opposed to the
miracle win
Texas
too. We
team in
discussed that.
Louisville. And now Minnesota actually has a pulse, you know.
Colorado doesn't, so
Yeah, Colorado's starting to lose.
They won on the road
They're on life
yesterday.
support. But yeah, I mean,
and
I'm
Arizona State, Rocco, come on.
Hey, Arizona State's got a 7-1 freak.
I'll say this. I had all of these people within the vicinity of the bubble. So while I don't have them in, I actually don't have them as far back. You know, I basically have them a line off of where Joby does. I don't think that's who we should select, but I definitely think Stanford belongs in the discussion. I'm going to select a team just because I want to hear Joby yell. What about New Mexico?
not in the field, but it's not outrageous, Griggs. It's the most realistic. With Boise's loss yesterday to San Diego State, yes, I know it was a great game in overtime. I stayed up and watched it, but you know the loss to the non-D1 is just you can't afford to lose then to a below average San Diego State team.
Who
New
they lose that
Mexico
was
has
non-D1?
put some
Boise
meat
did.
on their bones.
Oh,
Win
yeah.
at VCU is good. Santa Clara is a solid team. I don't think they're a tournament team yet, but if New Mexico puts up a very hearty record in the Mountain West, you might be shocked that I will be very much endorsing a bid for them down the road. But
VCU is
not yet.
yeah, VCU is not a team that we're going to put in the field, but I still think winning at VCU is hard to do.
Good.
And when I think winning at Boise is hard to do. I know Hawaii Pacific did it, but I don't ding them too much for any of their losses. Other than New Mexico State has me holding my nose a little bit, but when I compare them to Stanford, I think losing at home to Seattle and UNLV is those were easier games to win than winning at New Mexico State was.
For especially for New Mexico, I think it was accurate to talk about the Virginia Tech, like weird things happen. New Mexico State, New Mexico. I can
in the Rio Grande rivalry,
weird things happen.
Weird things happen.
You know,
Okay, let me get a couple other opinions here. Mike, let me ask you, Vatech, NC State avoiding Dayton, Stanford, and St. John's in Dayton. You agree or disagree?
I don't have a strong opinion either way. I mean, it's you know of course when you get to the bottom of the at-large pool, it's kind of muddled. I mean, you've got Ohio State, Texas A&M, they haven't been mentioned, or Tulsa. Indiana has Indiana been mentioned? No.
Nope. Ohio
So,
State, Texas
Indiana
A&M,
will not be mentioned.
Indiana. Ohio
I
State,
mean,
Texas A&M, and Indiana, and Tulsa are four more teams he just mentioned. So I've got to fill out that under consideration. More.
I don't have a problem either way.
Well, let me see here. Titel.
Chad, what would you like to know?
I'd like to know what your thoughts are on Joby's four teams here, especially the Stanford pick. Because if you guys all want it, we'll leave them in.
I do not.
Okay.
If you look at UCLA's metrics and under consideration, they're not only better than Stanford's, they're better than like TCU's. Like UCLA should have been in like a line ago. I cannot, in good conscience, I'm happy.
I thought we took them.
Talk me out of it, but they were missing Tyler Bilodeau for the loss to Cal. Their other three losses are tier one. UCLA is better than Stanford.
I agree. I missed it for some reason.
Yeah, I miss it too. Yeah,
Yeah,
UCLA overlooked UCLA.
It can't be all the Thunderbird I've been drinking, but I thought we had selected them.
No.
I
Okay.
think UCLA's biggest problem is that Mick Cronin is still their head coach.
Yeah.
Okay. So it looks like we put UCLA and St. John's going to Dayton with two more Dayton spots left. Rocco, you okay with this? I know you would rather had a Miami in here at least over some of these teams, but other than that,
Yeah, it wasn't a strong preference. Miami still has to, do something big. I think, I mean, it's a pretty good list. I agree with Virginia Tech. I'm not sold on North Carolina State, but I get that they're very dangerous long term. I think I had Indiana, especially after tonight's butt kicking, at least pretty close to the cut line. That's very debatable as well. They need a big win. I don't count tonight as a big win. So yeah, I mean, we're dealing with a lot of muck here.
I
Yeah.
do not like that pro
I just updated it. They just got their best win of the season, by the way. It just popped up on the
yeah.
screen.
That is a home
Mhm.
court hero against NIT caliber
Mhm.
teams. I don't
It's a
like that.
$15 million NIT team, Griggs.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and I mean again, that is an expensive NIT team.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's fill out the last two spots, Mike. There's two spots left. Last two teams in Dayton. We've got 8 teams under consideration. Why don't you give me 2 of them?
Let's see. I will choose, let's see. Jeez. Miami. And oh geez, slim pickings. Um,
You want to choose New Mexico because that's who I would choose.
New Mexico. There's an Ohio State team. We haven't looked at their profile. They haven't done
yeah,
really.
let's see Ohio
I
State.
don't think we need to worry about Mike choosing the Buckeyes.
Yeah,
Mm.
Yeah, what the heck? Choose New Mexico.
And he'll go
Mike, don't
Miami
let
and
me
New,
make my. Okay,
Miami and New Mexico's last 2 spots here. By the way, I'm going to go ahead. Either way, I'll just go put Tulsa in here at number 47 because they would be the auto bid winner out of the American, so
yeah,
they don't need to be on the under consideration list.
I like them a little more than that, but they needed to win. I don't think that was so much a bad loss today as it was a game that a tournament caliber team needs to be able to win.
Yeah,
And
they
they
lost at
didn't
North
get it.
Texas today. But
Yes.
let me get Rocco. Should it be Miami, New Mexico, our last 2 at larges?
I can live with both of those. I think that's a nice little spicy Dayton duo. Tulsa, yeah, they're close, but they don't. I mean, they should have won the Kansas State game and they blew that. I forgive them for today's game. The Super Pit is tough. North Texas undefeated at home, but they had that Kansas State win, and because Bowling Green went into that same building and won by 16, it doesn't make Tulsa look as strong. So New Mexico's been more impressive, and New Mexico, everybody's brand new, so they're getting better every game.
Yeah.
They're on an upward trajectory. They might win the Mountain West.
I like their team.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stalika, what do you think?
I can't, in good conscience, suggest a team like Ohio State when they're losing at Pittsburgh. I mean, granted, you have to understand that Pittsburgh's also losing to teams like Hofstra and other under the radar muck. I think even I'd suggested Oklahoma State, but I'm not going to suggest them over the Canes or the Lobos here, for example. Texas A&M and M and Indiana, they still need more chances to crack the cut line right here. And I think we had also discussed VCU as one other possible noisemaker, but that has to start with a win against St. Louis if they want to be under consideration.
Yeah, and what about another ACC team? Joby, shouldn't we be talking Cal a
Yeah.
little bit also? Shouldn't they be on our
Yeah,
board
I mean,
at least?
Oh, yeah.
I agree. Cal should definitely be talked about here because they have a nice little win. I know we talked about the injuries with UCLA, but it's a win over UCLA. Yeah, it's legit. They didn't lose to Notre Dame, and like it seems like everybody else is doing on these bubbles. And the losses at Kansas State, not an awful loss by any stretch on the road. Kansas State's done that this year, and then Louisville. Hey, Louisville's close to protected seed. So yeah, if I can't get the western side of the bay, then I might as well fight for the eastern side of the bay and Cal. and I do think, let's be honest, let's put Cal versus New Mexico's, in all honesty, let's look at Cal versus New Mexico. I think it's a clear case that Cal is right now got a better resume and it's not that New Mexico's bad, but all right, yeah, you have a win at VCU, but UCLA's in the tournament, VCU's not. You know, um, sorry. And then you go to the losses. Well, yeah, like I said, we can talk about New Mexico State or Boise State, teams out of the tournament, but Cal doesn't really have that except for Kansas State versus Boise State, sort of as a push. I give the nod to Cal there when you just look at it straight up.
Well, you look
Joe,
at the next 4
They
games
need to win
for
it
the
on the
Bears.
road. I know, Griggs,
Yeah.
but UCLA was a neutral court.
I was just going to say, if Cal sweeps their next 4 games, I might consider putting them in date.
Okay. I'm actually would be with Joby, but I don't think I've heard enough love for this Cal move here. I think we kind of have our field uh, through the at-larges at least. We also have 7 teams that we discussed as being under consideration. I don't know if there's anybody else that merits any serious discussion. I mean, do you want to throw a one-loss
Maybe.
George Mason team on that board? I don't know that they're really there, but
You can throw anybody you want on the
Mhm.
board. You gotta have people on the board to make the process work. So
Rocco.
Yeah, I mean, where are we at with Butler right now?
Yeah.
Are they too far out of it?
They were
I
another-
think
They have
they're
some
out
good
of it,
wins.
but no, I
They
think
have some good wins.
they
Yeah.
do, and I think they can. I think they're close enough to the bubble to reach it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
yeah,
Boise
Nice
State
win
loss
over
for-
Virginia. It's a nice win.
Yep. Yep.
one good win versus 5 losses. Yeah, it's a lot of losses
Yeah.
for me at this point.
Their
The,
next
the
four,
Providence win is aging well.
Yeah.
it is. You look at the schedule.
Just kidding.
I think that they're. I think that these are winnable games coming up. Even now, Seton Hall. I bet at the under 4 timeout they'll have a double-digit lead and they'll lose. But because that's just what people do when they go to Seton Hall. But you look at. I think the Johnnies at home is winnable. I think they can play there. Are you asking? Would I select them now? The answer is no. If you're asking me, are they good enough to be in the discussion, and do they have the opportunities to play their way in? I think the answer is yes. I've been big on Butler all season long. They were sort of one of my sleeper teams.
St. John's anywhere is winnable right now.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think 2 other ones that I wouldn't put in, but are at least on the radar would be Missouri after beating Florida yesterday. It's a 3 quad 1 losses and beat everybody else type of resume. And then Colorado is still in the 30s in the KPI, but obviously they don't have the high end wins.
And the loss to Northern Colorado really hurts.
Yeah, that really did
hurts.
hurt. That really did
and
hurt.
then Northern Colorado's 2 conference losses to Montana and Montana State.
Yeah,
really hurt
and
them.
to a Northern Colorado
that's
team that's
because
winless in conference. Yeah.
That's because it's the Big 12 doesn't usually make that road trip.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
It's a tough road trip.
Yeah,
It is.
if you
Front
want to come back
range,
Wednesday night
yeah,
for the radio, we can talk about how Northern Colorado goes 0-2, including losing out to Montana team that lost to an NAIA team earlier this season. We can
I
discuss
was
that.
disappointed.
Wednesday
I know
night.
it's hard, but I thought they were good enough to do it. And I like
I see. I filled in the 12 line there with 3 automatic bid winners: McNeese, Murray State, and Yale. All 3 very dangerous teams, actually.
Yeah.
And I'm going to quickly put up here the rest of the auto bid winners, maybe.
But Chad, say people want to know
tournament-
more about these
the
teams.
first tournament for William and Mary ever.
Yeah.
I got yes. Wednesday night under the radar show, we discuss all of these at teams and a lot more in detail. But I got William and Mary, Utah Valley, UC San Diego, Liberty, High Point, Troy, Quinnipiac, St. Thomas, Lipscomb, Furman, Idaho, UT Martin, Navy,
Idaho out of the Big Sky.
Wright State. Well, Northern Colorado's 0-2 in conference.
Yep.
Vermont, LIU, Howard, and Grambling, mostly going via GNG.
Oh my God!
ratings
We
for
are
these.
so going to Dayton. If it's Vermont, Long Island, Grambling, and Howard, we're all going. That is awesome.
Okay. On that note, what we're going to do is as soon as we're done with the show here, I'm going to go ahead and bracket this up. You'll see it down on the screen below us. You can take a look at the final bracket now. But I want to run through each of you for any other final thoughts on what we did or anything else you want to discuss. And Salika, let me start with you tonight.
I would have probably swapped Vermont for Wright State for Dayton, but the Raiders actually have been in one of those playing games in recent memory, so I would probably take them out of that discussion right there. But tomorrow night is going to be the beginning of a Big Monday, Super Tuesday, and all of our regular ACC, SEC, Big 12, Big East, and Big 10 conference games in earnest. So we had teased a lot of possible conference openers during our proceedings right here. So definitely time to start tuning into basketball season now that football is all but winding up.
Yeah, actually, I think we've got a couple more weeks until we get to it's a big Monday at least because of all the football championship games. But Tuesday and the rest of the week will be all there on your
Yeah, because
networks.
I know you're all in on Montana State and Illinois State, which in all seriousness has some good storylines
Yeah,
to
it
it.
does. Yeah.
Joby.
Well, what a difference a year makes between 2 conferences, and it all comes down. You could kind of see it in the ACC SEC challenge. Last year, the ACC SEC challenge, I think the SEC won 12-2, 13-2, something like that. This year, it was pretty much a wash. And our bids here on our projections kind of reflect that. How you do out of conference.
Joby, I'm going to jump in here. Quick
Yeah,
count by my count here. SEC 10, Big 12 and ACC 9, Big 10 8, Big East 4, West Coast and Mountain West 2.
exactly. And so you can, and it's a reflection of how well you perform out of conference makes a big impact on how many teams you get in the field. I know it sounds intuitive, but people forget this. The out of conference is huge. I don't think, Chad, we're going to see those numbers dramatically change throughout the year. The teams themselves might change. Oh, yeah, we had our little Stanford Miami debate and stuff like that. Teams like that could change. But I actually think the numbers in those conferences will remain relatively static within one or two. You're not going to see conferences all of a sudden. You're not going to see SEC fall down to 7 teams or go up to 14 teams. I think it's going to remain around 9, 10 all year. And we are starting, and that's why we're doing our first bracket show now for this reason, because the out of conference is done. That's where the interplay has now been completed. We have a feel for who is good and who is not now. And so wins will mean something, uh, and remain strong or weak, I think, throughout the year for the most part. And so uh, this is, while it is early, it's not outrageous to go through this process right now. And this gives you a very good feel for how teams really are looking for March.
Um, Rocco.
Yeah, no, Joby took some of the words out. I had written down the 9 ACC bids that you kind of Chad, and I was covering the game the other night between Louisville and Stanford. Stanford gets the big win. I had the opportunity to talk to both Pat Kelsey afterwards and, of course, Kyle Smith afterwards. And it's just night and day difference when, Louisville, again, a team that aspires to win the ACC and certainly talented enough to do it, 3 to 5 NBA players at least, and they come out, and Stanford's good enough to knock them out. Yeah, I know the travel's tough, and I know for Cal and Stanford particularly, what they do on their East Coast trips will define how far they can go. But at least the opportunity's there, and as Joby said, the foundation's in place for the league to get up to that many bids. It's kind of impressive, but we also see a little bit of a soft top with only Duke being a protected seed in this projection. That would be 8 teams, a little bit unprecedented below the protected line. I think it would be best for the ACC if the Louisville's maybe an SMU type, or perhaps just North Carolina gets elite after a while, joins them in that protected group. They get 3 of those. Then you build a bigger apple for the middle to eat out of. And that will be the key to the overall bid allotment. But I think it's exciting for the league because right now I think you only really have Boston College, Florida State, and Pitt that are almost dead in the water, but they still have a lot of games to go. Even Georgia Tech's got horrible performance metrics. They almost beat Duke, and they are still 10-5. And if they get rolling a little bit, they're not dead. So it's a big difference because for the last year or two, it's been a 5 bid league, and it's been a stretch to get 5. If you don't believe me, just call Bubba Cunningham.
And it does always seem that there's somebody that we're not really discussing this time of year that makes a very strong push as we go through the season. So, and I say Georgia Tech's going to do it, but I agree with that. Mike.
Yeah, this early in the season when you only have 14 or 15 games, you figure each week has about 2 games a week. So, that's huge. 2 out of 14, things could be very different a week from now. So it's just a long way to go. And this is just kind of the, not a starting point, but one of the earlier points, because 2 out of 14 as opposed to 2 out of 30, that's a big difference.
Yep. Titel.
2 bracket thoughts. One is the amazing coaching matchups that are in play here. You could have a national championship coach in Todd Golden against a national championship coach in Scott Drew as a 7-10 matchup. The 4-5s, you got Calipari, Izzo, Self, just like I love to see great coaches with survive and advance one game for all the marbles kind of situations. The other thing is I was skeptical about Miami, Ohio as a 10 seed, but The more and more I think about it, I think you guys were right to talk me into putting them that high. Additionally, like, they're in play for a special season. Top 10 in the nation in free throw shooting and 3-point shooting. Do not have a top 100 team left on their schedule. This team might keep winning and winning and winning as their seed goes up and up and up.
There's going to be a huge drop off as soon as they lose that first game, if they lose that first game. Go ahead, pull the screen share down here. Griggs, I'll let you finish off the show.
Yeah, I'll start with a quick bracket thought. I really like this Miami team. It wouldn't surprise me if they got up to the 10 line, if they can blow through the MAC, but I don't know if they're there yet. And then my other final thought here is I'm just excited to make an announcement. This is kind of a special thing that we are going. I am launching a new business venture. There it is. Can we see it yet? It's not letting me. It's pinwheeling.
It's loading.
It's loading. Like you're just gonna love this. This is a new cryptocurrency. Here we are. It is the fastest growing. This will actually make you rich. This is Griggs Coin. It's better than Bitcoin. It's anything else. See, do not wait. You can get rich now, and it clearly says there that this is not a scam. You can donate to this. You can make you can just send me the money. I mean, like, you send the business the money, not to me. But if you want to invest, you just got to click on that button.
That's it. No, that's it. Folks, please do not invest in Griggs Coin. This is.
I mean, it is in some ways the perfect meme coin.
Oh, God. On that note, we will be back tomorrow night with the Hoops HG Report, Wednesday with Under the Radar, next Sunday with another bracket rundown. On behalf of John Titel, Joby Fortson, Mike Cha, Rocco Miller for Bracketeer.org, David Griggs, John Stalika, I'm Chad Sherwood. I'm Chad Sherwood. Thanks for joining us. Talk to you again real soon.